Welcome again to another edition of In Power Health. Of course, the program that gives you great power, good health, and making the right lifestyle choices. My name is Alex Assing. Last week we were talking about gut bacteria and the various types, or at least knowing that there's good gut bacteria, there's bad gut bacteria, and more importantly, what you eat and how it's going to affect your overall health where the bacteria is concerned. Today, we're going to go into some more detail about the various types of bacteria, which I think is very important to know, Doc. And I see you have your information. That's one thing I like about you, Doc. You always have your information, your journals, to be able to quote not just from the top of your head, even though there's lots of information there as well.
Sometimes the head gets heavy.
So you need to refer.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're going to be doing once again today.
Well, one of the things about that is that if you're going to try to talk facts, then you have to go to the source of where people are spending their time day in, day out, trying to prove what they're saying.
Correct.
Scientifically. And once you have a certain trend on that, and it has an explanation as to why things are happening, then you take that and you put it together, and you begin to make sense. It allows you to predict the future.
Yes.
That's literally what's happening.
And make a proper diagnosis.
Make a proper diagnosis.
Yeah.
So, I always say that we don't have health in this country. We don't have health in most countries. What we have is a reaction to disease.
Yes.
And most of the time, the reaction to the disease is totally wrong because it is a solution-based problem rather than a totality problem.
We don't have the knowledge.
Right? Sometimes you have the knowledge, it's just ignored. But then you have people around who will tell you genetically modified foods is a good thing. It increases production and all kinds of things.
Can you imagine that?
Where did you get all that information from? I was chatting to a guy in the market a few weeks ago, and he keeps telling me that. I says, if you read the latest statistics, you'll see that the price of corn and soy in the United States and wheat has gone up. It's gone up because the production has fallen short, sometimes as much as 25%. Farmers are beginning to get worried. Super weeds are taking over.
Yeah.
It is not a solution. It is proceeding to be a disaster in the making.
Correct.
But it will take a little while, like everything else, to gather that inertia, and that is what we have. So last week we were talking, and we were going down the list, and we were talking about high fructose corn syrup. And we say that high fructose corn syrup preferentially increases the growth of pathogenic causing bacteria, fungi, and yeast. So limiting the amount of refined and processed sugar in your diet is a key to dietary principle of gut health. Always you find that if you look, remember we're talking about this doctor that traveled around looking at dental problems in the 1920s, 30s. I can't remember his name at the moment. But he found that the people with the best teeth was young people in the black communities that worked on the sugar plantations in the south. And he found that that sugarcane juice, in fact, had the thing that prevented them from getting, decaying teeth.
Right, rotten teeth.
The point about it is by the time you process the thing and you make pure sugar, the exact things happen, exact opposite.
Yes.
So always it seems to be that the minute you take something that is natural, that is in symbiosis with our body,
Correct.
and we process it. So we take corn and we take the corn starch and we process it into a sugar, and we have high fructose corn syrup that has nothing to do with ordinary syrup.
Right.
And we find that it not only mashes up your gut bacteria, it promotes gut dysbiosis, and there's a good correlation between fructose consumption and the levels of inflammatory processes going on in the body. That shows that your gut is leaking. So it promotes leaky gut.
Yeah.
High levels of sugar in your blood, there also causes the high levels of sugar in your blood to bind with protein. And this too is correlated with leaky gut, and explain why fructose consumption is related to increased gut permeability and inflammatory diseases like obesity.
Wow.
So you think, he says, avoid genetically engineered foods. As Dr. Perlmutter says, yes, there is a clear and present danger in the notion that genetically modifying the foods that we share with our gut bacteria the gut bacteria are expecting the type of food that has been provided for them for the last couple of million years.
Right, which is more natural.
Suddenly we are introducing foods that are genetically unlike anything that the human microbiome has ever seen.
Yes.
The research that allows the Food and Drug Administration to allow genetically modified foods has not even been considered at the ends of the GMOs, on the effects of GMOs on the human microbiome. Glyphosate, which is liberally used to genetically engineer genetically engineered Roundup Ready crops and many non-organic, non-GMO crops as well, has been found to alter the human microbiome.
Yes.
So genetically engineered foods deliver a double assault on your gut bacteria every time you eat. We are poisoning the food that we eat, and if that is not bad enough, that the food we are feeding our microbiome, which are going to determine whether we live or die. And then he says, quite understating it, it is a bit of a worry.
Oh boy, I'm very worried.
You know, and it doesn't even talk about the pesticide aspect of it, which also causes problems. Focus on eating probiotic foods, fermented foods, vegetables. A broad spectrum of probiotic supplements may also be advisable. Eat also plenty of prebiotic fiber. And remember, we talk about dandelion, greens, and garlic, and Mexican yam, and these things. Providing prebiotic food that helps to line the gut so that the bacteria grows well.
Right.
Right. So, the name of the book is Dr. Perlmutter's book, Perlmutter, Brain Maker, The Power of Gut Microbes to Heal and Protect Your Brain for Life. That's the name of the book. What we're going to do now is we're going to go through some of the bacteria in the gut.
Yes.
Because everybody talks about gut bacteria, gut bacteria.
What exactly is gut bacteria?
Which type of gut bacteria? What does it
what's
do?
good,
What's
what's
the,
bad?
where, you know.
Yeah.
So I chose a few, got a few out and dug them out.
Okay.
And you say, all right, you have Lactobacillus brevis. Is a binomial name denoted a strain of lactic acid bacteria. Food manufacturers rely on these bacteria ability to ferment carbohydrates and contribute to the creation of desirable foods.
Okay.
Tasty results of the process include yogurt, sauerkraut. It is not until more recent years that Lactobacillus brevis was recognized as a crucial member of the probiotic microorganisms that actively promote the health of the human gut. Yet, you know that Lactobacillus brevis can quite possibly save your life. Right? Lactobacillus brevis is known as brevis, L. brevis, is one of the beta bacteria, most commonly associated with the fermentation of vegetable, dairy, and even sourdough.
Right.
Its subsequent introduction into the human digestive system underwent close scrutiny and resulted in Lactobacillus brevis addition to the group of probiotics. The benefits associated with Lactobacillus brevis. Continuous clinical trials, studies acknowledge that Lactobacillus brevis provides anti-inflammatory benefits to the human digestive system.
Wow, so that's
it's
a good guy.
Yes. A 2006 study offered such convincing proof that oral ulcers associated with Behçet syndromes could be controlled with targeted supplementation of L. brevis. Researchers strongly urge larger trials. In other words, they got good results, but let's do a big study and get a thing. A 2009 publication decisively ranks lactic acid bacteria, of which L. brevis is one, into a group of probiotics that evidence not only anti-inflammatory processes, but also anti-cancer activities. So we begin to understand that the gut bacteria that you have also challenges the input of cancer into the body. Digestion of these beneficial bacteria by test animals resulted in a marked suppression of colonic tumor formation and the reduction of DNA damage. Getting your daily dose of probiotics in general, Lactobacillus brevis in particular might lead you past the yogurt shelf on the dairy aisle. After all, with the potential benefit ranging from help with constipation, over inflammatory bowel disease, it helps to stop an IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD if you want to call it that, to even colon cancer, it stands to reason that ingestion of lactobacillus containing probiotics is a crucial aspect of continued health and well-being. The trick of reaping all the benefits of probiotics has to offer in buying them when they are supplied as live culture.
Okay.
So you have to buy stuff that has live culture in it. Right? In 1996, a study researching the effect of oral supplementation of Lactobacillus brevilis factored in live and also heat-treated preparations. Consistent evaluation proved that heat-treated cultures failed to provide any statistically significant beneficial outcomes.
Right, so you got to keep it cool.
You have to keep it live.
Live.
That means that if you have, let's say you have some yogurt and it has Lactobacillus brevilis in it, and you took a little piece of it, you know, quarter spoon, and you took some fresh milk, and you dumped it in it and you left it outside,
Yes.
within the space of about 8 or 10 hours, it would turn to a gel, and you would have the same bacteria now growing fully in
Yes.
it, you know. Yogurt is very easy to make, you know.
Right.
It says to get the availability of Lactobacillus brevilis, if yogurt is not your passion, the sheer amount that you will have to ingest for maximum health is more than you are willing to eat.
Right.
Supplementation is the attractive option, right?
Wow.
So he talks about Lactobacillus brevis. So you're tempted to think your overall dietary habits make supplementation with L. brevis unnecessary. Nothing could be further from the truth. Physicians recognize that following an antibiotic treatment for deadly Clostridium difficile infections with Lactobacillus supplementation greatly increases the treatment effectiveness and also prevents a disease-specific setback. Now, I mentioned another one, Clostridium difficile.
Yeah.
The Clostridium bacteria things, they have a peculiar thing that they do in the gut. They love iron.
Oh, really?
They eat up your iron,
Okay.
right? So when you have people who have Clostridia bacteria, they are always
Constipated.
anemic
Anemic.
because you eat up the iron.
That's right. That's right.
You eat
So
up the iron.
lower blood count.
So, you know, I always say that you have somebody that comes to you and they're anemic, and you say, well, have you been to the Western doctor? Because they come to me last. They don't, very rare. Now they begin to come to me first sometimes, but they normally come last. And they say, yeah, you know, I went to my doctor and he sent me to the specialist who sent me to the other one, and they give me this. And when you look, you see the doctor that she had gave her iron tablets.
Okay.
She went to the specialist. The specialist gave her iron tablets. He didn't ask what the doctor gave, he just gave her iron.
Right.
And then they sent her some other specialist, and he gave her iron
More
tablets.
iron.
So she taken 3 sets of
Right.
iron tablets, which is poisoning the system,
Yes.
which is also not making the blood deficiency better,
Yes.
and
And
causing
that will
causing tremendous
That
constipation.
will cause a constipation. Too much iron. That's right. The opposite of being anemic.
So he says, if you're taking immunosuppressive drugs, make sure you discuss your intent to use Lactobacillus brevis ahead of time with your physician. The same holds true if you suffer from cancer, HIV, or other diseases that greatly impact the immune system. I don't mean to be rude, but most of your physicians will not have the guts to tell you, I don't know much about what you're talking about. I will have to go and check it up.
Yeah.
You know, I do that. You know, I have something and I don't know. I say, give me a few days. I'll go check it up. Call my
course.
partners who I think might have an idea about it, because we can't know everything.
That's right.
We have Lactobacillus casei, more commonly referred as LKC. It's a harmless, non-pathogenic microorganism that has been widely recognized for the attributes and properties it possesses that have been found to be beneficial to the human body.
Right.
LKC is a type of bacteria that helps protect the human body from disease and illness by restricting the growth of various types of harmful bacteria that cause infection and be detrimental to an individual's health. Probiotics are live organisms which, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefit on the host. Because of the benefits LKC offers, it is typically categorized as a probiotic. It says here, it is a beneficial bacteria that is found naturally in both the mouth and the intestines of human beings. It produces lactic acid, which helps lower the pH level in the digestive system and impedes the growth of the harmful bacteria. LKC may be found in raw or fermented dairy and other fresh or fermented plant products. The sources may include yogurt, cheese, other types of foods such as fermented green olives. According to such reports, scientists have found Lactobacillus casei to possess beneficial properties that support human health. It is able to improve and promote digestion. Some strains of the bacteria help control diarrhea, while other strains have an anti-inflammatory effect on the gut. Other advantages include reducing lactose intolerance, alleviating constipation, and even modulation of the immune system. So most of the bacteria gets involved with the immune system and helps it along. Friendly bacteria are vital to our proper development of the immune system, the protection against microorganisms that could cause disease, and to digestion and absorption of food and nutrients. Ensuring that the body has an appropriate amount of LKC inhabiting the body is especially important. This may be especially true for individuals suffering from Crohn's disease and critically ill children suffering from diarrhea. Crohn's disease is a typical type of irritable bowel. It can affect any part of the gastrointestinal tract, but the area of the GIT is most commonly affected by the Crohn's disease is the colon or the small intestine. The symptoms of Crohn's disease generally include abdominal pain, diarrhea, weight loss, and vomiting. When an individual has Crohn's disease, their body reacts inappropriately to good bacteria for harmful bacteria, and the body begins to attack the good bacteria. When this occurs, the body sends white blood cells into the lining of the intestines, where they produce chronic inflammation. Right? These cells then generate harmful products that ultimately leads to ulceration and bowel injury. This process leads to Crohn's disease. Lactobacillus casei has effects on the symptoms of Crohn's disease. The conclusion of the study, LKC can counteract the pro-inflammatory effects of E. coli, which is the bacteria that causes Crohn's disease. There are increasing evidence in a study in 2006 that probiotics decrease the incidence of acute infections and non-nosocomial and antibiotic-induced diarrhea among children hospitalized in non-intensive care settings. Furthermore, LKC has been used safely and with positive effects for when given to critically ill children suffering from diarrhea. Lactobacillus casei is described as a beneficial microorganism, helps to promote other beneficial bacterial growth and prevents the overgrowth of pathogenic bacteria in the human body. In particular, it helps the growth of beneficial bacteria such as Lactobacillus acidophilus, which can help prevent such conditions as constipation and irritable bowel syndrome. Lactobacillus acidophilus also helps to control the growth of yeast. So that is why yogurt is so popular.
But Doc, let me ask a question. Now, you go to buy yogurt. On the list of ingredients, would you see
Yes, it has
lactobacillus in its different forms?
And then it has live culture on it, if it is a good
But that's it. But would you see that on all brands of yogurt?
I don't know.
Yeah, you see. You need to know what to look for.
I suppose the more careful ones who are really interested in your health will do that. In fact, one of the ways of getting rid of yeast in the vagina after you take suppositories and things like that is to replace the yeast bacteria. Because if you don't, it will come back through the gut, come back into the system and reinfect. You know, you have some women come to me and say, I have a yeast infection. My boyfriend could give it to me. You see, how you know that?
Always want to blame the guy, huh?
Yeah. But when you watch them and you watch the signs, you realize that they have chronic yeast infection. All the thing with foggy head, you know, mood swings, all the craziness that goes on. And so you tell them, chances are that is not what happened. Is that your immune system ran low, and the thing that is already there just came out. You know, so you have that constant problem with a lot of misinformation. Lactobacillus helvictus is a lactic acid producing bacteria that is often used in the production of various cheeses: mozzarella, cheddar, parmesan, Swiss. So you begin to understand that the eating of cheese, a lot of times, if it's live, if it's new cheese, that they have live bacteria inside there that is going to benefit you.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
You'll see that they have certain exotic bacteria in things like blue cheese, Stilton Blue, and,
Yes.
and Gorgonzola and things
Some
like
blue
that.
cheese.
Yes. You're talking me now, you know. Helvictus has the inhibition of potential pathogens. It's anti-mutagenic, stops changes, right? Anti-tumorogenic, it means it helps to stop the growth of tumors.
Tumors, yeah.
Right? Antihypertensive, helps
Okay.
to drop your blood pressure, right? And immunomodulatory activity, it helps the immune system.
Okay.
It has been reported that L. helveticus stimulates the immune and digestive system, controls diarrhea, reduces lactose intolerance, and inhibits unfriendly bacteria. Lactobacillus helveticus enhances the recovery of gut atrophy induced by malnutrition. A number of studies have been conducted in regards to the myriads of potential health benefits offered by L. helveticus. These studies have focused on health topics such as bone mineral density
Right.
and bone mineral content, calcium and bone metabolism, arterial stiffness, and blood pressure. So you begin to see that people who suffering from osteoporosis might just have the wrong gut bacteria.
Right.
They might have a little inability to process the food properly, in that the hydrochloric acid in the stomach is not as strong as it should be.
Right, so the food is
Couple
not
those
break down
two
as
together,
easily.
and you have a person who, you know, the body using the bone to keep the body alive, right? So when you have that
not
now,
good.
and the drug companies come along and they give you aldronate, which is the thing that packs calcium onto the bone, but packs dead calcium,
Okay.
which means that the bone is no longer alive, which means the bone no longer participates in the health of the electromagnetic energy of your body,
Wow.
because your bone, live bone, is a semiconductor.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll give you an idea as to why you just get more energy sometimes when you finish exercise, you feel so good. Because every time you run
Right.
and you impact on the bone and the bone flexes,
Send him charge.
it generates
Yeah.
electricity.
Yeah.
So you're charging yourself up. When you finish, you say, going home and take a bathe and nice and relaxed and things like that. So when you take aldronate and you put bone on the system, that bone is dead bone. So that bone gradually gets very weak, because that addition of dead bone there
Yes.
cannot support the weight of the body. So you're taking one problem and you put in a wrong solution on a wrong problem,
Yeah.
which causes you more problems.
Of course. And that's what has been happening for years
Right.
with Western medicine.
The conclusion of this study indicates that L. helveticus fermented milk increases the bone mineral density and bone mineral content in relation to body weight, and in the long-term feeding of rats, it was very, very, you can see it very obviously. Now, one of the things that we're saying is that you have a yeast infection, a woman, and she puts a suppository in and it gets rid of the discharge, and they say, if you're living abroad, maybe here too, now we're beginning to have health food shops. You go and you buy organic yogurt, plain organic yogurt,
Yes.
that has acidophilus in it, and you take it, you carry it home, you take a tablespoon of it, it must be live culture. Well, if it's organic, the chances are it is. And you get some distilled water and you mix it, you make a mixture with it, and then you take a douche and you lie down and you fill the vagina with that mixture, and you leave it there for about 15 minutes, and then you run it out and you lie back again and you put it for another 10 or 15 minutes for a few nights, and what it does is it re-establishes
Yes.
the acidophilus in the vagina.
Wow.
So that even though you get yeast that might be trying to come over from the intestines, it gets blocked, because once them fellas inside there and they're happy,
Yeah.
right?
No, nobody coming around.
Nobody ain't coming around.
I gotcha.
So you begin to understand that lots of times when you do something, so you have people and they say, all right, you know what we do? We'll give you something, we'll give you an antibiotic to kill the yeast. And you kill the yeast, and of course, the person goes along, and 2 or 3 months later, the yeast comes back, because you haven't altered the structure. So if you're taking something to clean out the yeast out of the gut, you have to follow it with a good 2 or 3 months of probiotic
That's right.
to try and establish the probiotic back. And you use probiotics that will help to defeat the yeast. So any little colony it have, they will go in there and help wipe it out. You know what I
Correct.
mean? So you have arterial stiffness. Arterial stiffness is associated with cardiovascular disease, which includes both heart attack and stroke. According to a study conducted in 2007, L. helveticus fermented milk that contains certain tripeptides show a positive effect on arterial stiffness. The research from this study indicates that the ambulatory arterial stiffness index improves significantly, that is the flexibility increase,
Right. Right.
in peptide milk group, but not in the placebo group. So you're double blind in it, you're single blind in it. You're using a placebo group to check in what is happening, right? Suggesting a mechanism for antihypertensive effects of these peptides. Peptides are building blocks for proteins and are small structures built by amino acids. A tripeptide such as isoleucine, proline, which is a milk peptide, can have a blood pressure lowering effect. So now they begin to tell you which amino acid that is formed by the lactobacillus will cause your blood pressure to drop.
Right.
Right? That's why I went and dug this out. Get a little scientific sometimes.
Of course. It sounds very scientific.
Because health problems such as arterial stiffness may be related to untreated high blood pressure, adding L-1 diet contribute to improved arterial health.
Very good.
So you begin to understand that what they're suggesting here is that if you have high blood pressure and you know what to do, you don't have to take blood pressure medicine for the rest of your life.
Right.
What you have to do is to know how to modulate the things that are fundamental.
That's right. Try to get some good bacteria in there.
I mean, and if you was very good, you'd understand too that you'd have to have your thyroid working properly, right? Because that would cause the walls of the arteries to become back smooth, because it wouldn't have any myxedema inside the artery itself.
Yeah.
You know, and so you begin to understand, and then you do that, and then if you have enough nitric oxide to dilate the arteries,
Yes.
right? That is why you go and you buy all these nice pills to, you know, make things nice, because it increases the nitric oxide cycle in the blood, which dilates the arteries,
Right.
which causes a good response.
Of course.
But it also drops your blood pressure. So maybe what you will see over the next few years is safe nitric oxide producers being used to drop the blood pressure. Straight, clean, no problem. It's interesting. I have a book I'm going to read. It's the nitric oxide solution. It tells you the importance of nitric oxide in the body, which rivals oxygen in its uses.
Okay. All right.
You know, so I'm reading here, and
All
the
right.
guy says that they realize that nitric oxide is very important, and that what you had to have is foods and things like that that would support the nitric oxide
Right.
cycle.
Okay.
Maybe you do a program on that one day by itself.
That would be
So they
interesting.
found that kale and arugula and beets and these things were all high nitric oxide things.
Wonderful. I got some beets home.
In fact, kale has something like 6,800 units. Arugula has 2,000 something. Beets has about 800. So they're right at the top.
Good.
So you begin to understand that anybody eating that kind of food regularly, that over a period of a couple of months, their blood pressure should begin to come down dramatically. But the guys were looking for other things that could drop raise the nitric oxide cycle
Yes.
dramatically. So one of the research engineers was also a Chinese medical doctor. So he says, you know, we have in Chinese medicine for hundreds of years, we have certain herbs that we use for alleviating chest pain from the heart.
Right.
And maybe we should look at them. And they pulled out a list of about 16 herbs that are traditionally used in that kind of medicine to see if they were nitric oxide contributors.
Good.
How many you think they found were nitric oxide contributors?
I take a guess. All.
Every single one. So they started making concoctions
Right.
using these herbs. So when you have people and they say that empiricism doesn't work, all the time it keeps getting proved wrong. If you have a thing and you take it, Say like, guy has chest pains, and he's one of them crazy dudes. Let me explain what I mean by that. Has a chest pain, and you get up one morning and you say, I dream a particular plant, you know, and if I get our plant and I use it, it can take away my heart problems.
Okay.
So you go on trucking out, you know, and he's walking along, so you don't know the name of the plant or anything, but he's seen it in his dreams. And he walks up to the plant and he says, that's the plant. So we say, you're afraid to kill yourself, boy? He said, no, that's the plant.
Okay.
And he picks the plant and he carries it home. And he drinks it and his heart problems subsides.
Right, goes away.
So he tells all his partners, so all his partners start using it. So for hundreds of years he's using this plant and it does that. And then somebody comes along and says, that's a whole heap of nonsense, it don't work. That is an insult to all the people who have tested it for all the years and knows that it works. You follow?
I understand.
It's just like how in Ayurvedic medicine they've been using turmeric for donkey centuries for anti-inflammatory. You come and say, that is of no use. It hasn't been tested. It ain't laboratory made, and all kinds of various
We know they have a hidden
things.
agenda.
Right. And then you go and you take it and you find that, hey, it shuts down the inflammatory process in your body beneficially. So you realize that people who eat a lot of curry that has turmeric in it don't have too much joint pains. Right?
Amazing.
It also has strong anti-cancer properties, so they get cancer less. So what we have to do is to go to the curry people here and say, start making good curry. Start making curry, you know, with all kind of ranges in it. You know, you could go into an Indian store in London, in certain parts of Africa, and they have about 40 different types of curry, you know.
Okay.
They have curry that will have more of a certain kind of pepper. They have curry that will have more of a certain type of herb. And so they have various differences.
Okay, I understand.
Right? So a Vindaloo curry is different from a Madras curry. Right?
Vindaloo curry.
Yeah. Both of them hot. So
Yeah. I thought
so
curry was curry.
no. You have all kinds of curries. And so when you look at it, sometimes you see on the shelf here, you see various company that will make 4 or 5 different types of curries, and you could buy the different ones, and you could carry them home and you could check them out, and I promise you they all taste different. But if you know the herbs that it has in it, and you know what is the effect,
Yes, you know which one to opt for.
right? So for instance, raising your iron content might not cure your anemia, but eating sesame seed or cooking with sesame oil might fix it, because that is a very strong tonifier for blood. You begin to understand the whole thing.
Definitely.
So after a while you begin to know, you know. So he says Lactobacillus gasseri, this is another one. It's strain naturally present in human breast milk and is thus part of the group of microorganisms that are essential for overall equilibrium. Once it's in breast milk, you know that the manufacturer, right, knows what to put in it, or rather the chief who does control the manufacturer, right? A recent discovery, however, identified its potential in a completely different area, that of weight control. So according to the bacteria that you have in your gut, decides whether you're going to be fat or whether you're going to be thin. The amount of leptin that you have in your stomach decides whether you're going to get diabetes or whether you're not going to get diabetes, because leptin controls your hunger, how much you eat.
That makes a lot of sense.
Leptin. So you see, we have all these things and we think that it's just don't eat this and don't eat that. But why?
Exactly.
I sometimes tell people, I say, look, you want to get energy in the morning, when you sit down to eat, fry up some okra and fry up some baigan and fry up some or some other things, 2 or 3 things, put it in a dish. Don't eat any bread. Oh God, oh God, dead. You know, you say no. Listen what to do. Get yourself some organic coconut oil and take 2 tablespoonfuls.
Right.
All right. Now, the minute they drink that 2 tablespoonfuls, within the space of 10 or 15 minutes,
Sort of feel the energy.
that has turned into ketogenic stuff, and it's gone into the blood-brain barrier, giving this brain energy, so your memory shoots up nicely. But it goes into your cellular structure, your muscles and things like that,
Of course.
and it provides a higher level of energy. So it mixes that with a little of the stuff in the liver, and it goes out there, and you go to work. Now, because you've had 2 tablespoonfuls, it uses it nicely as a high octane fuel. So when, say like you sat down to eat, and you ate 2 slices of bread,
Right.
and when you ate the 2 slices of bread, your sugar went,
Yeah.
and your insulin went, and it stays up there for 2-3 hours.
Right.
So you reach to work, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 10:30, your body and the insulin fighting to bring back down the sugar.
Yeah. Yeah.
When it starts to come down, remember the body is not an exact feedback loop. So when you have your sugar here and it sends insulin, it will go shoops, and it will send a little bit more insulin. So the sugar starts to come down.
Right.
Right? Some people it ain't working too good, the feedback loop ain't working too good. So you get boom, too much insulin, and then the sugar goes down too low and they become hypoglycemic.
Okay. Yes.
So listen what happened. 10, 11, you're fighting it, right? Insulin up there.
Yeah.
Sugar starts to come down. So it reaches the line. But because you have a little extra insulin, it do so, zoom, and it pushes down the
Right,
sugar.
So you feel like you want to
So-
collapse.
So 10, 11, long before that, you say, boy, I feeling real hungry, you know. I need to go and get a real good lunch.
Yeah.
I want something with ground provision and
Yeah.
plenty thing and
Or bust up shop with plenty flour.
yeah, and plenty meat and all kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they go and they sit down and they snake eat. You know what I mean by snake eat?
Yeah.
They eat this big meal and they go back to work after
bus.
work and they sit down and they could scarcely stay awake.
Yeah.
Not understanding it is the carbohydrates that is causing the oscillation of hunger satiation.
Yes.
Because by the finish time when they get home in the evening, they're ready to eat again.
Yeah.
Because and you also put in a strain on the pancreas producing all that insulin.
Correct.
So if you find that you eat some foods and you eat it with a fairly low carbohydrate and you supplement with coconut oil,
Yes.
the coconut oil doesn't raise the sugar,
No.
but it provides energy.
yes.
Doesn't have to do anything with the insulin, so it provides energy. It provides energy safely. That energy is also a higher quality of energy. So you go through 9, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you still have energy.
Still going, yeah.
You ain't have no insulin swing. So when lunchtime come and you go to eat, you tell the person, you say,
You gotta pick out.
I don't want a big lunch like that today. And somehow I ain't feeling so hungry. I'll eat a small one.
Yeah.
So you save half your money.
Right.
Right.
And you have to.
And you go back to work after lunch,
Yeah.
and you go back to work after lunch very relaxed. So what happens is you begin to lose weight
Yes.
because you don't have that insulin swing, you know. But people don't get that explained to them,
Yes.
right? So
Exactly.
he says a number of studies report that consumption of Lactobacillus gasseri promotes a reduction in abdominal adipose fat. A 12-week double-blind study, 210 adults with abdominal adiposity clearly showed that Lactobacillus gasseri reduced the body mass index, waist and hip circumference, and abdominal fat mass by 8.5% in comparison to the control group, where nothing happened. Research published in Nature in 2000 journal Nature has already indicated that microbial populations in the gut are different between lean and obese people, and that when obese people lose weight, the composition of their microflora reverts back to the individuals with a normal BMI, suggesting that obesity may have a microbial component. Now listen, if you have a fat person and they start to diet and they start to lose weight, if they keep it up long enough, the gut bacteria will change. Why? Because you're not eating heavy carbohydrates and things like that. So the bacteria that lives well in that, boy, look at that nice dashing coming on there, we're going to sort it out,
Sticky
right?
and blue.
Right. So that stops, and the fellas and them say, we ain't getting no food, boy. So they split. And the ones who come in on it, like Gasseri, takes over, and then the person don't feel so things. Now, subcutaneous adipocytes, right? So he says at the end of the study, it was shown that L-Gaceri considerably reduced body weight and adipose tissue in the supplemented mice and also had substantial anti-diabetes type 2 activity. Why? Because you're messing with the sugar. You're messing with the excessive sugar. Subcutaneous adipocytes are the major source of leptin and adiponectin. Leptin is an adipocyte hormone that controls the weight by regulating food intake and energy output. Leptin concentration is closely linked with body fat percentage, and higher serum levels are always found in obese individuals. According to this study, administration of L-Gaceri suppressed increases in plasma leptin, suggesting that a reduction in weight and fat mass is associated with a decrease in serum leptin. Similar effects have been observed in earlier studies. So what it says is that this bacteria inhibits the amount of leptin that you have in the body, which then satiates you at a much lower level.
Right. So you don't have to eat as much because you don't feel that hungry.
So you begin to understand that eating and overeating is a learned process. And when you learn it, so if you grow up in a house, say, eat your food, boy, I put food for you there and you need that.
Yeah.
Which has some people say, how come you're so thin? Yeah. If you go to a spiritual Baptist Thanksgiving, no disrespect meant to the mothers and things like that, but they're all big and fat because all the food that they're eating is full of flour and sugar and all kinds of things. And you say, what are you doing that for?
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people inside there it's a culture. So I say, the people say, well, I have diabetes, my sister have diabetes, my mother have diabetes. Therefore, it is a hereditary thing. They say,
I have heard that before.
because you have 3 other sisters and they have diabetes and a brother. That is true. But 2 of them living in Canada and 1 living in the country, in the States. So right away they tell you that they have changed their diet.
Yes, correct.
You understand? They have changed the diet, most likely for the beneficial things. So you change your diet and that too, you know. So he says, well, he goes on and say, GLUT4 is a main transporter of glucose in skeletal muscles and adipose tissue. Increase in expression of the GLUT4 gene in adipose tissue is known to improve the insulin resistance associated with type 2 diabetes. So L-Gaceri significantly increased expression of the GLUT4 gene in adipose tissue. In addition, the insulin levels fell significantly.
Yes.
So the Gaceri bacteria produces something that interferes with the GLUT4 that increases the insulin sensitivity of the cell.
That's right.
So it helps to get rid of type 2 diabetes. Increases in blood glucose stimulates the secretion of insulin, and this hyperinsulinemia is frequently accompanied by obesity. Consumption of L-Gaceri would appear to help reduce the insulin resistance and thus improve pre-diabetic states, right? Therefore, the results suggest that the anti-obesity effect of L-Gaceri can be attributed to the blocking of leptin. The anti-diabetes activity of L-Gaceri can be attributed to elevated GLUT4 levels and reduced insulin levels. The probiotic L-Gaceri helps reduce body weight and adiposity by lowering levels of leptin and insulin, suggesting that it may facilitate the treatment of metabolic syndrome. That's what we really was coming here to try and say, that when you have bacteria, that bacteria plays a fantastic effect on what is going on. And if you don't know that, you think, oh, what can I do? You know, so let's do another one. The probiotic S. Thermophilus, Streptococcus thermophilus, is a powerful probiotic strain that has well-researched health benefits. This probiotic is often found in the colon and has many digestive, immunity, and other well-researched health benefits. S. thermophilus is used in the culturing of cheese as well as yogurt. This probiotic strain also produces lactase, which helps people digest milk more efficiently.
Oh, that's interesting.
Lastly, probiotic Streptococcus thermophilus also produces antibiotic chemicals to prevent infection from infections like pneumonia, C. difficile, and can help prevent ulcers. So listen to the research benefits of S. thermophilus. It reduces antibiotic-associated diarrhea, decreases ulcerative colitis symptoms, decreases leaky gut symptoms, improves lactose digestion, decreases IBS syndromes, irritable bowel, decreases acute bacteria, immunity, prevents and fights upper respiratory infections like pneumonia, prevents ulcers caused by H. pylori, excessive H. pylori in the stomach, decreases AIDS symptoms, fights the Clostridium difficile bacteria, the one that we say eats up the iron and all other things like that, increases immunity, improves non-breastfed Indian probiotic flora. So if you're not breastfed, and you will give them probiotic thermophilus to improve the probiotic flora. Reduces symptoms of atopic dermatitis, skin problems, right? Decreases chance of kidney stones, increases the HDL, which is the bacteria that takes the plaque out of the arteries and carries it back to the liver. Also carries back the dead LDL, the empty LDL. Okay. Increases antituber activity, decreases baby colic.
Baby colic too.
So here you have one bacteria with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And I'm sure that is not the total list.
Yeah, I'm sure so too.
Right. So you begin to understand it is absolutely supremely important. Debaromyces hansen 2, a foodborne yeast that produces anti-candida killer toxins. So there are bacteria that exist in the gut that will kill the yeast. Now this is a top of the web is a thesis presented in the University of Nebraska for Masters of Science.
Okay. Doctor, before you start, what again is Candida?
It's a fungus, it's a yeast fungus. And it is a terrible thing. It normally exists in the gut in a fairly beneficial way in small amounts when you have it in what you call symbiotic control. Right? I mean, you could in a society you could have a dude who's a little bit off key, and you run in the way place up the road, and everybody getting a little fun. Right? But if you have 20 people running way and war starts, then it gets inimical to the society.
I think so, yeah.
So sometimes you could have bad dudes in the society doing a contribution to a certain amount that doesn't affect. That is the way with Candida. Right?
Gotcha.
So she says, Candida yeasts are commensal members of the gastrointestinal, mucosa, oral, and vaginal microbiota. Right? So that means that they live in the gut, they feed, they eat what you eat. And if you're eating plenty sugar and plenty carbohydrates, they're in the glee.
Of course.
Right? Candida albicans and Candida tropicalis have been found as part of the human commensal flora, especially in all sections of the gastrointestinal tract. However, when the host defense system and microbiota are disturbed, Candida can become pathogenic and cause severe infection or candidiasis. Antifungal drugs used to treat candidiasis have been shown to result in treatment failures due to drug toxicity and or development of resistance during long-term antifungal therapy. And in recent years, the incidence of Candida infection has increased dramatically due to the rise in the number of immunocompromised patients. Many yeast species can produce toxic proteins and glycoproteins called killer toxin or mycosins, which can kill sensitive yeasts. So they kill the opposition too. Debaromyces hansen,
that's a big one,
is the most common yeast species found in cheese and can produce killer toxins. In order to examine the diversity and the killer toxin profile, 48 types of cheeses were collected in 5 sampling periods for fungal isolation. Yeasts and molds were identified on 42 strains of 42 different types of Hanseni, were isolated and screen for killer activity against Candida albicans and Candida tropicalis using a streak-place agar diffusion bioassay. That's a technique in the lab for checking it out, where they make a particular kind of agar and get it done. So you see that just looking at this, you begin to understand that the gut is a very intricate place where all kinds of things are going on. And sure, antibiotics is beneficial, steroids are beneficial, but one of the side effects that they both have is that they destroy a lot of the good bacteria.
Right.
And one of the things that I suppose we have to learn to do, is that whenever you take antibiotics, sure as hell, go and take probiotics for a few months. Right. Otherwise, you would have destroyed the gut flora and fauna.
And you're going to end up with
and all
leaky
kinds of crazy things will happen. You know? So I thought that we just go through that, give a little idea as a summation to what we did last week. You know, and we only touched on a few. You know, you have about 40 different types, and they all contribute in all kinds of ways.
Definitely.
To think some of them even get into the body and help the immune system to fight diseases.
Right.
You know, so.
Because, you know, Doc, when I was growing up, I was always, you know, taught that all bacteria was bad, or that once you hear the word bacteria, that's a bad thing. You know, cholesterol, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
But now we realize that there's good and bad because the body needs, you know, a certain amount of it to exist and to have you in good health.
Yes. Okay. So,
Yeah.
we'll
So
round
we're
off here.
Yes, we will wrap. And like the doc said, there are so many different types of bacteria that we need to know about. We just covered a few, and we realized how important it is to eat well and to know what we're eating and how it affects our gut, and also the presence of that bacteria is very important as well. So thank you for joining us on this edition of In Power Health. I'm sure we'll do another chapter on this very informative bacteria topic with Dr. Myers. My name is Alex Assing. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, this was In Power Health.